Hello, everyone. This week on Teen Tips, we're going to be talking about podcasts that teens are loving. You might think, well, podcasts are more for like millennials and adults, but no, teens are listening and loving these podcasts. The first podcast we're going to be talking about is Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain. YouTuber Emma Chamberlain branched back into the podcasting this year with a debut of Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain, a show that as wonderfully rambling as a 19-year-old herself. On this podcast, anything really does go, and she prides herself on having no real structure, from talking about her complicated relationship with fame. Spoiler alert, she's not that into being famous, to opening up about her struggles with self-worth and confidence, to getting real about money and finances. Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain evokes the candid spirit of the teen's early vlogs, of a young woman working through her thoughts and feelings in real time. The podcast we're going to be talking about is Criminella, a true crime podcast that examines the intersection of history, crime, and gender. The first season of Criminella spotlights lady killers. No, not men who killed women. There's enough of those podcasts. But rather women who have been accused of murder, specifically women whose methods of choice was poison. Poison has often been called a woman's weapon, but how and why did this distinction come to be? And is it even accurate? Hosts Holly and Maria set out to set the record straight, detailing how women have been marginalized and vilified throughout history by unpacking their unique stories. From Chicago's most famous serial killer, Tilly, to Birmingham's folk hero, Sally Bassett, an enslaved woman who was executed in 1730 for poisoning her granddaughter's enslaver. Criminella goes beyond the crime to talk about historical and culture implications. The third podcast we'll be talking about is Teenager Therapy. Here's a concept: real teens talking about their very real thoughts, concerns, and daily lives. Sound compelling? That's the idea behind Teenager Therapy, a weekly podcast hosted by a roundtable of stressed, sleep-deprived, yet energetic high schoolers. In an era where most stories about teenagehood are being told by adults, Teenager Therapy is a fresh look at the coming-of-age experience in 2020 and 2021. An undeniably weird-as heck year for young people. These teens have their lives upended by a global health pandemic, and they've also had to navigate a crucial presidential election from the sidelines. And this conversational podcast goes into all of that and more. Not to mention, they scored a coveted interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, in which they talked about mental health stigma and mental burnout. Fourth podcast we're going to be talking about is What Good Games. What Good Games is an informative, funny weekly podcast all about video games. The three hosts, who happen to be female, have great chemistry and demonstrate clear expertise on the biggest games on the market. The very long episodes cover news, listener questions, and personal experience playing games. But keep in mind, while the podcast itself is okay for teens, some of the games we discuss are very mature. The last podcast we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite as well, which is Conversations with People That Hate Me. In an internet era characterized by comment section wars, devastating clapbacks, and anonymous trolls, Dylan explores what happens when online feuders step out from behind the keyboard and get to know the human on the other side of the screen. Join Dylan as he connects people who have clashed online, from old friends to complete strangers, to explore why we believe what we believe, how we relate to each other on the internet, and just what a phone call can accomplish. Don't be fooled by the title. It's actually a loving show that fosters unlikely connections in an age of increasing digital isolation. Whether Dylan is speaking with someone who wrote him a negative comment or is moderating a car between two strangers at odds, the results are often surprising, usually heartwarming, and always compelling. Thanks for watching. Come back next week for more teen tips. Have a great week.